Presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and powered by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Welcome to the podcast where former San Antonio police officer, author, and pastor Tim Rupp walks you through real-life scenarios involving our police officers and digs into the depths of facts and opinions on each case. This is Cop Talk, and it starts now.
Hello, and welcome to Strong Blue Line's Cop Talk. I'm Tim Rupp in the Rev.FM studio in beautiful Idaho Falls. Here with me is station manager Gary Austin. Hello, Gary.
Hello, Tim Rupp.
Hey, Sherry's back again.
Yeah, I
She
know.
had so much fun last time that she said, I'm going to come back again. So here she is.
Yep.
I think I may be out of a job, Gary.
Tim and Sherry show now.
Oh, it's going to be the Gary and Sherry. That goes better. Gary and Sherry. Gary, Sherry, and Terry. You can have your wife come. Carrie.
Yeah,
What did I say
there you
Terry for? Carrie. I'm sorry, Carrie. Don't hold that against me. I want some of that Christmas candy.
Okay, I'll let
I'm
it.
still thinking about that Christmas candy. That was good
That was
stuff,
very
man.
good.
Oh, man.
She does well.
We have to have her on a show here.
Yeah.
Carrie's Christmas candy.
Yeah, there you go.
Excellent, man. We're a little ways out from Christmas. It is June, though, so finally the weather's warming up a little bit, better than it used to be. Okay. Officer Down Memorial Page. I sound like Rush Limbaugh, right?
Yeah.
With the pages. God bless Rush Limbaugh. Okay. Special Agent, or Officer Down Memorial Page, we're honoring those officers killed in the line of duty on this date, June 5th. So I have Special Agent Charles M. Davis of the United States Postal Inspection Service. End of watch, Wednesday, June 5th, 1867. In June of 1867, Special Agent Charles Davis was assigned to protect a postal stagecoach that was traveling north of Denver along the Overland Trail en route to Montana. As the stagecoach neared the American Ranch, it was attacked by a group of men. The driver of the coach was shot and killed instantly. Agent Davis was also shot. Two of the outlaws were killed and the rest of the group fled. They were never apprehended. So this could have been like Bush Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, man. That could have been that group.
It could have been.
They weren't caught. It could have been the Dalton Gang.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know who they were. 3 days later, Agent Davis succumbed to his wounds. Agent Davis had served with the United States Postal Inspection Service for 1 month. He is survived by his parents. His father was a general serving in Washington, D.C. You know, his age isn't available, but they didn't have a picture of him online, but they had a sketch, an artist sketch. And he looked like a young man. He looked like maybe early 20s.
Oh, wow.
So and he's survived by parents, so he probably wasn't married.
Right.
And he served 1 month. So
I'll be darned.
shot down protecting the U.S. Postal Service stagecoach in 1867, north of Denver.
1867. I like those old ones you do, Tim.
I do. They're very interesting.
Yeah, they are very interesting. This is Officer Walter John Dwight III. End of watch, Philadelphia Police Department out of Pennsylvania, 2015. So he died from complications, another training incident, but
We talked about that last week.
he had surgery, last week. So he had initially injured his shoulder in an on-duty vehicle crash back in 1984. And then the shoulder was re-injured in 2014 during a tactical training exercise. And so a recruit had stepped on his foot, causing him to fall backwards onto the floor. So his shoulder injury was aggravated and required a follow-up surgery. And he passed away from complications of that surgery.
Wow.
Yep, he had served with the Philadelphia Police Department for 33 years.
Wow, you wouldn't think of that. You know, I knew a couple guys on our police department, at least two right off the top of my head. Both of them had been shot in the line of duty. One was shot in the line of duty before I came on the police department. And he was on the police department. And before I retired, he died of complications of that gunshot wound years later. Another guy, he worked traffic. His name's Dave Evans. And he was shot at a Denny's restaurant. 4 officers were shot in that incident. And all 4 of them survived initially. One of them died about 2 or 3 years later of his injuries. And then Officer David Evans, traffic officer, he died after his retirement.
Man.
but they still credited him with a line of duty
Still
death.
a line of duty.
So in this officer here in Philadelphia, he was injured, and then years later, he died of complications of surgery because of that injury.
Yeah.
You
You know,
never know.
I find it interesting too, Tim, that I would think that the officer down involves shootings, and that's it.
Right, you think that.
You think that, but it's death or
Right, it's officer killed in the line of duty,
Killed in the
and
line
if
of
you
duty,
look
yeah.
at them, about 1/3 of the officers die by assault.
Mm-hmm.
That is, they're murdered. Most of them gunshot,
Mm-hmm.
but some are stabbing, or they're intentionally ran down, ran over by a car intentionally, not accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2/3, most of them are accidental deaths. And then there are some that are just natural causes on duty, like
Yeah.
the officer's on duty and has a heart attack on duty.
or vehicle crashes.
Yeah,
or,
yeah, and accidental. And so,
Hmm.
so only about 1/3 of the officers are actually killed by assault.
Interesting.
So that tells you that the job is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because you have training accidents. You're always driving cars. I mean,
Right.
that's what officers do. You do that for your whole shift. All you do is drive all the time. Or you're out in the traffic and you're directing traffic at 3:00 in the morning. A bunch of drunks out.
Right.
So they're getting ran over and stuff. So, and
Yeah.
when the weather's bad and everybody stays home because of the ice and the snow, where are policemen at?
They're out.
They're working
yeah.
at. They're out there
Yeah.
working it. So, yeah, it's a dangerous job.
Really
Anyway,
is.
so we like to honor our officers in the line of duty, and so we do that. Hey, if you don't catch us on the Rev.fm, you can catch Cop Talk archive shows on Amazon, Google, Apple, and Spotify podcast platforms. Is that all we have right now, Gary? Is Amazon, Google, Apple, and Spotify? Is that right? I haven't updated
Yeah.
this in a while.
So Google Podcasts is now YouTube.
Okay, that's right. They changed to
podcasts.
YouTube,
Yeah,
right?
on the Rev
okay.
channel. So they changed. Google Podcasts is no longer. They own YouTube. So, but they've
One of
just
them monopoly things, huh?
they've just changed it. Yep.
Okay.
So Google is no more. Google Podcasts is no more, and it's now YouTube.
So it's YouTube. I'll have to change that. You need to start correcting me on that. Station manager, I tell you what.
Come on.
Water. Is any water up here, Gary?
One job.
One job. Water. That's all I ask for is water. No water.
And Kleenex.
And okay, 2 jobs. Water and Kleenex. Hey, June 15th, just in about 10 days from now, Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. This is sponsored by Christ Cowboy Country Church, and also known as the Blackfoot Cowboy Church, or the Cowboy Church in Blackfoot. Pastor Joe Stepp is the pastor there, and they are sponsoring this Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and this is specifically for Blackfoot PD, Shelley PD, Bingham County Sheriff's Office, Idaho State Police, and the Fort Hall Tribal PD. So there's going to have appetizer. Sherry and I is going to speak. Mark Carroll, the Blackfoot mayor. I'm sure you know him personally.
No.
No, okay.
No, I don't.
Anyways, the honorable. You got to say that the honorable Mark Carroll will be there. I don't know him either, but I will meet him. He'll be there. He'll speak, and then Sherry and I is going to speak. And of course, we're representing the Strong Blue Line Foundation. Dinner and dessert at 3:30. We're speaking at 2:30, and show up at 1:00. There's going to have stuff for the kids. They're going to have play stuff, but they're giving away raffle tickets to these officers, Gary, and they're giving away like guns and stuff. I mean, this isn't they're giving away teddy bears.
Right.
They're giving away big ticket items, man.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if we can pick up a couple raffle tickets, Sherry. You never know. Okay, hey, Sherry's jumped in with us, so we're going to talk about some of this. So what we do, Sherry, sometimes we have the news, and we call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's original. And so let's talk about this. Washington. This comes out of Washington PD, and this is Pasco, Washington. Gary, you know where Pasco, Washington is?
I do.
Where's that at?
Yeah, I know Pasco, Washington. Yeah, it's more like central, I think, isn't
South Central, right on the
South
Columbian
Central.
River.
Yeah, yeah.
You're up to Morgan, and when I looked it up a while back, I said I've been through there. Don't remember it, but I
right.
probably wasn't impressed. But no, it was. That's good though that I wasn't stopped and mugged there.
Right.
Or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pasco,
good.
Washington. Police Department. The police department recently updated its equipment by purchasing 110 silencers from Silencer Central, according to a news country. So they're buying silencers, or suppressors, more accurately called suppressors, because they don't really silence. When we think of silencer, we think of James Bond.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Where the guy, like, well, it's not that quiet when you silence, especially when you're silencing or suppressing a 223. But they're getting these silencers for the officers, and it's really a good idea. I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, when I guess it was longer than that. I guess it was like early 2020 when I went out with the sheriff's office to qualify. I had my AR-15 out there, and I didn't have mine suppressed. I don't have a suppressor for mine, but all the officers have theirs suppressed. And when I shot mine, they all like stopped and looked at me like, "Really? What's wrong with you, Rupp? Get a suppressor on it. It's loud." But they have these suppressors, and I think they're a pretty good idea. I don't know if you know, Sherry, you know that silencers, in order to get a silencer for a gun, you have to get a federal tax stamp for that silencer or for that suppressor. So a suppressor may cost you, say a suppressor costs you $300 or $400. Then you have to pay a tax stamp that's like $250. So that's just a tax to the government for you to have that suppressor. And the reason why is because they want to control them. And they think that, well, because who uses suppressors? Only assassins. Be honest with you, Gary, I worked murders for a long time. I worked at the police department for many, many years. Never once did I come across anybody that used a suppressor at bad guys. Never, not one time, never.
Huh.
It's, I'm sure, I guess the mafia does, on TV I see it, but I never see it.
Mm-hmm.
And a big thing is, I think suppressor, I think they ought to take that off, because what a suppressor does when you're out shooting yourself, if you're out shooting your own rifle or your own pistol, you get a suppressor for it. It protects the ears. And my wife here that's agreeing with me, she is an RN. So she knows the importance of ear protection.
Yes, it is important. But it's not just the ear protection. It say SWAT teams are going after somebody, they it's not as loud when they have to shoot at somebody and make their presence known that they're there. It protects them, that they it helps protect them from the bad guys knowing that they're there.
Well, and when they're in close quarters, when you go into a SWAT situation, go into a police situation, you don't stop and put on hearing protection. Mm-hmm. You just go in because you want your hearing. Mm-hmm. If you're at the range, it's different. And if you're going to somewhere and you're inside a building and somebody's shooting off an AR-15, it could do some damage to your ears. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm wearing hearing aids now, and a lot of that is attributed to shootings and stuff. I was involved in a shooting way back when with .357 Magnum, and I didn't use hearing protection. And I talk about it, I didn't hear the shots. I don't recall hearing the shots. I don't recall ringing my ears, but that does not mean damage wasn't done.
Right. Yeah.
And so there could still be damage done, and I'm obviously having problems hearing. Of course, Sherry's always complained that I have problems hearing for a long time. But she says it's just her. Why are you laughing, Gary?
Oh, Tim. What'd you say?
Exactly. All right, so I think that's good that they got these for their police department, and I was surprised it was in Washington. That's why I went to look it up. Washington's a very liberal, and they're wanting to cut back on police budgets, but that's just usually the far left coast of Washington, not necessarily the heartland of Washington. Washington's a beautiful state. It's got some pretty country.
Yes.
Anyways, here's another one here, and here's one. This is a U.S. House bill. It says would lift armored vehicles restrictions for police. I don't know if you remember, Gary and Sherry, back in the riots in the 2020, and the riots and right after that, and they talked, and even before then, during the Obama administration. So this was back before the Trump administration. President Obama was talking about restricting armored vehicles for law enforcement. And so the Biden administration even did that more. And what their concern was is that they have these armored vehicles that are really They're military vehicles. That's what they are. They're military
okay.
vehicles, and they take these military vehicles that are being put out of service by the military. Well, what do you do with an armored vehicle?
Right.
Give them to the police officers. Well, the fear, which I understand, some of the people say, well, you're making the police look like an armed, invaders, and they're coming in, and it's intimidating to have this. And so what they did, they started, they made a law in Washington, and it says that I'm just going to read some of this. Washington, U.S. Representative Angie Craig will unveil a bill Wednesday that will make it easier for local police departments to purchase armored vehicles. The Minnesota Democrats' legislation comes on the heels of a shooting earlier this year in Burnsville. That's where, I don't know if you guys remember, 2 officers and an EM technician were killed. They killed 2 police officers and a paramedic, as it says right there, responding to a domestic abuse call. It also coincides with National Police Week, when House Republican lawmakers plan to introduce a package of law enforcement related bills. First responders used an armored vehicle in the standoff to help rescue injured officers. The vehicle sustained 41 shots from a rifle that day, while first responders went in to save other officers, as well as the 2 who had been fatally shot and the paramedic, according to Craig's office. So this armored vehicle there, they didn't have this armored vehicle there as an attack weapon. It was used
to rescue the officers.
It was a rescue vehicle.
Yes.
Huh.
And so, it sustained 41 shots, and that was from rifle fire.
My goodness.
They start shooting police cars. People think that you hide behind a car and it's going to protect you. It's not.
No.
Unless you're behind the engine block, which is a very small area of the car. But a rifle will go right through a car.
Yeah.
Right through one door, out through the inside, and out the other door.
Yeah, we've learned that. Yeah. There's been some cases that we
exactly. Yeah, we've talked about that stuff.
About that, yeah.
And so it's very important. So I'm glad that they're finally getting on board with this, and so good for them. They're going to open this up. It says here on the second page that police officers have experienced a surge in assaults over the last decade, most commonly during the responses to domestic disturbance calls, and like the ones that was at Burnsville. What had happened is when the government gave these vehicles, they said they can only be used in specific incidents. In other words, if you're not serving a serious arrest warrant, then you can't use it. So you couldn't use it for domestic violence. And that's kind of silly that you have equipment that you're unable to use because the government wants you to restrict it. Mm-hmm. And so fortunately, some people are starting to make some good decisions in Washington. That kind of shocks me itself, Gary.
Me too.
That they're actually making good decisions in Washington.
Yep.
Every once in a while, we'll be surprised. And
very rare.
We just had our primary here last month.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember, Carl Casperson, who came on, was voted in. He ran unopposed, it turned out.
Yeah.
So
right.
Carl Casperson is going to be one of Bonneville County's, what do you call him?
County commissioner.
County commissioner.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear. Yeah, so he's going to be a county commissioner, and he's going to be overseeing, one of his jobs is to oversee the budget for the sheriff's office.
Right, and so that puts him in the primary election, though, right?
Right, that puts him in the primary.
So
he hasn't. You're right. He hasn't been officially elected, but if you know Idaho, usually the Republican they get in.
Right.
He'll run
exactly,
and so the general election will be in November when we have the presidential election, then the federal elections, all that
right.
stuff. So
general. Yeah.
So he's not there yet, but he will be. Okay, and I found this story. This comes from Law Enforcement Today. It's dated 21st, May 21st. So this is just a couple weeks ago. May 21st comes out of Avon Park, Florida. I like to read through this. This is an amazing story. A Florida man is being hailed as a hero for fatally stabbing a home intruder who shot his wife in the face. The incident took place on May 16th in Avon Park, a town about 75 miles south of Orlando. So Orlando is a highly populated area. Disney World and all that stuff's
Right,
there. You know,
exactly.
Florida's a highly populated state, period. Law enforcement officers from the Highlands County Sheriff's Office arrived at the scene around 8:30 p.m. So it wasn't too late at night, just 8:30. After receiving reports of a violent confrontation, the intruder, Lindsay Glenn, 62, tricked an elderly couple into letting him inside their home on Joe Hilton Street. Both the husband and wife are 69 years old. Why do they call that elderly?
Elderly.
That's not that.
Elderly.
Same thing. That's not elderly.
A few years ago, that was elderly, not anymore, Hunter. Both the husband and wife, 69 years old. Once inside, Glenn pulled out a gun. This is the bad guy. Pulled out a gun and shot the woman in the face, causing severe injuries. Reacting quickly, the husband grabbed a 7-inch garden knife and attacked Glenn, stabbing him multiple times. Gary, do you realize what he did there? He brought a knife to a gunfight.
He did. You've talked about that, Tim.
But he won. Despite her injuries, the female victim managed to stumble out of the house and seek help from a neighbor. She was bleeding heavily but survived the attacks. Thank the Lord for that. She's now in stable condition at a trauma center. Wow. So you never know what a gunshot's going to do. Shot in the face, and she's in stable condition.
Yeah.
The husband also sustained minor injuries and was treated at the local hospital before being released. When deputies arrived, they found Glenn dead inside the home. Sheriff Paul Blackman stated that Glenn was cut to pieces and very much deceased.
Yeah.
Wow. By the time officers reached the scene, Blackman commented the husband's bravery and swift action in defending his wife and home. He also expressed hopes for the woman's speedy recovery. Glenn had a long criminal history. Now listen to this here. I thank the Lord for this sheriff. He went there and he said, this man did a good job defending his wife. Instead of, giving one of them sob stories about but let me tell you about Glenn here. This is the bad guy. Glenn had a long criminal history. He had been convicted in at least 12 felonies. Now I want you to know, he's 62 years old. Same age I am. I'm 63. He started his criminal, it says, including burglary, robbery, he'd served 6 prison sentences. His criminal record dates back to 1979.
My goodness.
That's when I became a security police officer.
Huh.
So his career and my career paralleled each other.
Yeah.
He was just on the other side of the law. Sheriff Blackman provided more details on the incident, explaining that Glenn used a ruse to enter the victim's home. Once inside, Glenn shot the female victim in the face. So here's a guy, 62 years old. You wouldn't think a guy 62 years old is going to try to, harm you maybe. Maybe you're thinking that, but he used something to get inside.
Yeah.
The male victim then armed himself with a garden knife and fatally wounded Glenn in the struggle that ensued. Ultimately, the suspect, Lindsay Glenn, was cut to pieces, Blackman said. I would like to commend the male victim for his bravery and quick action in defending his wife and their home, Blackman said in a video. You know what? He called the husband the victim, and good for him. He didn't call the guy that was killed the victim.
Right.
The guy that was killed was the suspect. He was the aggressor. We pray that for his wife and that she has a fast recovery. Sheriff Blackman highlighted the danger posed by Glenn, giving extensive criminal record, and noted that the male victim's actions in the defense of his family and home. So that's good. I thank the Lord for that sheriff, backing up his citizens, backing up the people. And Gary, we are out of time once again. Can you believe this?
It just goes so fast.
It does.
I think it's because Sherry's here.
I think so. Thank you, dear, so much for
Just flies.
last week and this week. And did you have fun, dear?
Yes.
Yes, good. She's just here for the entertainment. Laughs at me and you.
Right?
I think that's it.
I think so.
Anyways, hey, thanks for listening in. If you have a topic or question you want addressed on Cop Talk, send me an email. You can email suggestions, questions, comments, or complaints to coptalk@therev.fm. That's coptalk@therev.fm. Thought from the good book today? Do not desire her beauty in your heart, and don't let her captivate you with her eyelashes. Thank you for joining us and help us to make the thin blue line a strong blue line.
Cop Talk is presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and sponsored by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Questions and comments are always welcome by email to coptalk@therev.fm. Listen, follow, leave a review, and share this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube. And visit thestrongblueline.org to learn how you can be a supporter. Cop Talk is a Rev FM production, produced and edited by Gary Austin. Thank you for joining us on Cop Talk.